How's it going, everybody? How's it going? Everybody good? Hi. Hello. Hey. We're gonna have a little midday book club while I chill. Hey. I've got the baby monitor. She's sleeping, so I'm stuck here. Can't do slime stuff because I'm not at my house. I'm at my sister's house. As you can see, I'm in a different location. This is my sister's house. I figured we would do a little reading. It's always good. She just went down for a nap. It's an adjustment. She's weirded out that her parents are both gone. It's kind of strange. But she's fine. She's sleeping now. And I'll stay with her tonight. Unless he's magically born fast and her dad can come home to her tonight so that she feels normal, I mean, we don't know, right? No real news yet. They're at the hospital. I'll let you know. But it could be hours, you know what I mean? Like, babies don't necessarily come quickly. It could be hours and hours and hours before this baby shows up. Like, I have no idea when he's going to come. Gustav? Okay, I'm glad you're on. I got my order and I have a problem with one of my slimes. Should I email? Yes, definitely email me. Yes, and we can fix that. That's not a problem, Becca. Always email me because there's not really anything I can do on live, but I can always do something if you email me. So definitely do that. Yeah, for sure. Easy peasy. As soon as I am off live, I can always answer emails real quick. So that's not a problem. What was I going to say? I don't remember what else. So yeah, let's do a little reading because we have to just sit here quietly anyway. So I figured now, is as good a time as any. If any of you are, baby's coming. If any of you are behind on book club stuff, they're always on the sad. You know how Zoe messed with my bookmark? It officially just decided that it was done. Sad. I mean, I'm still going to use this part of it, but that's what you get when 2-year-olds get to your stuff, It's not Renee's fault. It's Zoe's fault. Me? No, I'm not pregnant. No, I'm not pregnant. My sister is a gajillion months pregnant, and she's in the hospital right now giving me a nephew. Yeah. His name is going to be Gustav. Just kidding. That's just what we call him because it's funny. No, you don't have to be sorry, Summer. There's nothing to be sorry about. No, I am not even close to pregnant, but my sister is so incredibly pregnant. She's so pregnant. It's like a lot of pregnant. She's more pregnant than most people right now. Yeah. She is the most pregnant, maximum pregnancy capacity at this time. All right, let's read chapter 37, y'all. Because we got to get through this book before John gets home, you guys. Like, we really do. All right. I guess now would be a good time to explain that all the travel arrangements were being created in the year 2345 and not in 2012, which is the last year I remember if you hadn't already caught on by now. That being said, I would like to state that the good old US of A isn't as traversable as it used to be, let's say. So figure going in around raiders, possibly man-eating giant birds, and there's a total lack of Highway I-5, and the fact that every square inch of the world was now covered in deep snow, and then maybe you'll kind of understand. Also, I'm not expecting anyone from 2012 to actually hear this, and to be honest, I'm not sure that anyone will hear it. I do this because I feel like I'm going to go back crazy if I don't talk to someone, and you're it, whoever you are. When I was in college getting my master's in the great studies of history, I took a required creative writing course, and in it, the teacher addressed something called author intrusion. Basically, what it means is when an author breaks the main storyline to address the reader/listener personally, thus wavering, however slight or major, the reader/listener's actual interest in the story. These incidents are frowned upon because the authors are supposed to paint a vivid picture for people and not talk about grabbing coffee sometime. I know if I ever get back to 2012 and decide to have any of this stuff published, I'd get caught with author intrusion a lot. But since I don't plan on anyone besides you, my dear unnamed friend, hearing this story, I'm not worried about New York working me over in an edit. I mentioned earlier that you may or may not have heard my first account. I'm treating this volume of my life like you have heard it, even though I don't know who, where, or when you are. I feel connected to you, nonetheless. So, when I refer to you as whoever you are, please don't take it as a nondescriptive term that I use to make myself feel sane. Wear it like a badge of honor, and one day, should our paths ever cross, I'll buy you coffee. Or a Lamborghini. It's a coin flip, really. That was a cute little chapter. That was a very sweet little, like, interlude, if you will. That's what I call them in my book. I call these little things interludes because it's musical theater. So I call all the like little blips interludes. Hey, Brian. Chapter 38. Are we there yet? Sam groaned from his unrolled cot where he'd been stretched out for hours on the floor of the waltz. My bum's been asleep for so long that I don't think it'll wake up ever again. We're on chapter 38. Chapter 38. We're passing Portland, more or less, Beck said. She was driving while Red napped in the passenger seat. Still a little over 70 miles away, but we'll be in Seattle in about 3 hours if the rock doesn't attack us. Blue and I were playing chess against each other on our holotabs when Beck casually mentioned this for the 50th time. Blue, why does she always say that like she wants it to happen? The message appeared beside the hollow chessboard. Jericho, go easy on her. The poor thing just needs a little excitement in her life, that's all. By the way, it was wrong for me to play chess with Blue considering I could hear what she was thinking. After I won the first game with ease, I saw her flabbergasted expression and I let her win every game afterwards. Not that I was worried that she was a sore loser or anything, but the girl was a certified genius. I laughed the first game off as a fluke because I wasn't really ready to tell her that I could hear her thoughts. Piper leaned back on the bench across from us with her hands behind her head, her eyes on the ceiling, and, for once, was starting to not notice her presence long enough to enjoy Blue's when she suddenly spoke. Did you lie about the big cod on our fishing trip? What the? I didn't know what to say. Yes, I had lied about the massive Icelandic cod I said I'd caught during the month-long fishing trip on the Isle of Svalbard with her, but it seemed like she hadn't addressed me in forever. Random much? I said. Piper turned her head sideways and looked at me. You did, didn't you? No, and why didn't you ask me about that when we were actually on the trip? Piper let one side of her mouth lift into a smile. That's right, a real smile. And said, I had other things on my mind other than the authenticity of your big fish tales, Jericho. Oh, burn, Sam said with a chuckle from his cot. She didn't believe you from the get-go, mate. Blue was still frowning at our hollow chess game, but I knew it wasn't because she was pondering a move. Her mind was going light speed on why the heck Piper was suddenly talking about old times. Hey, I said, leaning forward, I totally spared the mammoth cod. Why'd you think I did? Buy it from someone? Piper was still smiling, but it was aimed at the top of the car now. Dunno, sounds like something you'd do. The truth about the huge cod was less about me spearing it from afar like a ninja warrior and more about my time traveling to Svalbard in 2011 and buying it off of a modern fisherman by the dock. And all I did was stab my spear into the already dead fish when I got back, found Piper whilst toddling my new catch like I'd owned the beast without a hitch. I'd only done it to impress Piper because, I really liked her. Whatever, I have a great spear arm and you know it, I told her. Turning on her side, Piper propped her head up in her hand and looked at me. Do you remember Hazel? Hazel. He'd been sort of like the town bully of Piper's village. Yeah, what about him? Do you know his father tried to buy me from my mother for 6 sheep? I couldn't stop the laugh that escaped my mouth at the thought. No way. Nodding, Piper said, my mother literally attacked him. 6 sheep. Sounds a bit steep, Blue thought, and that sounded as good of a thing to say as anything. 6 sheep. Sounds a bit steep, don't you think? I asked smugly, and Piper laughed, something else that Blue wasn't digging too much. Sam, who for some reason seemed to also be in the conversation, said, if it were an auction, I'd start my bid off at maybe 2 lambs, then... What? I'd start my bid off at maybe 2 lambs, then that was of the weak, lame sort, you see. Shut it, rogue, Piper told him, but she was still smiling. I find the start-off beat sheep offensive. Wait. I'm so sorry, you guys. I don't know why I can't read this sentence. I feel like a dummy. Shut it, rogue, Piper told him, but she was still smiling. I find the start off being sheep offensive. If the man would have offered a couple of yaks, then my mom probably would have agreed. We all got a good laugh out of that, and Blue even plastered on a fake smile. You kids better keep it down back there. Beck said from the driver's seat, or else Mama's coming with a vengeance. It was strange to see that Piper was in almost a good mood, but I wasn't about to pass up the chance of seeing her smile. It was most likely because she was hours away from being reunited with what's-his-name, but I didn't care. I mean, it wasn't as if I was trying to win her back from the guy, which was why I didn't understand her cold behavior towards me. But while we all talked, joked, and laughed, the remaining few hours to Seattle, the thought of stealing Piper away wasn't sounding too bad. Maybe it was all because that's all I'd gotten from her since I saw her again. It was usually harsh disdain, and I couldn't remember all the things that had made me fall for her in the first place. Even though she didn't show the full personality that I had gotten addicted to in the past, Piper did show me enough to kick in some major withdrawals. So powerful were the stirring emotions that had been dormant for so long during the course of the remaining trip to Seattle. I don't really recall hearing Blue's thoughts. They were probably there, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't listening. Interesting. So when he's focused on Piper, he can't hear Blue's thoughts in his head. Very interesting. Chapter 39. I've only been to Seattle 2 times in my past life, and if I could compile a few words to describe it, I think the list would be short and definitely have the word morbid in it. I could only think of one word to describe Seattle in 2345, though. Wet. The ever-present snow had disappeared almost half an hour away from the city and was replaced by sleet, which didn't freeze when it landed, so when we finally made it to Seattle, the waltz was treading through almost 2 feet of cold water. Something tells me the suicide rate here is still high, I muttered, peering through the top porthole located above the windshield. At the buildings there were left standing, which really there weren't many. Even the Space Needle, the first thing most people think of when Seattle's mentioned, was missing from the skyline. So, what kind of folks live here? Hey, B. Traders, mostly, Red told me from behind the steering wheel, guiding the waltz onto a collapsed bridge. There'll be a roadblock ahead, and we'll be forced to show we're not cannibalistic raiders, and then we can go in. Beck and Sloan will have to stay in the car then, Sam said, getting his exosuit on while the little girl stuck her tongue out at him. Blue, who had been quiet for almost 2 hours, spoke up while she was getting into her battle armor. Be on the lookout for sinners. Beck waved that off. Sinners haven't been this far west in years, and it's SYNNERS, not like sinners like Bible sinners. We're talking like some other kind of synthetic something. Whilst Blue was assuring Beck that her intel was wrong and that the sins, as she called them, had been branching out from their usual treks over the last decade, I was frowning in confusion about why sinners would be something we needed to watch out for. And then he's spelling that the Bible way. I mean, I'm no saint myself, but I hadn't exactly stumbled upon a whole lot of devout people in 2345. Piper, who was now in her white armor, saw my expression and she said, "Synthetic hunters." Hunters? I repeated, like Blade Runners? No, Beck said in an unimpressed tone. Clearly she still wasn't buying the sinner scare. They hunt humans with synthetic parts. Then it all came back to me about how Beck and I were illegal things and that some people didn't even count us among the human race. Why? I asked. I mean, what's so wrong about someone getting a robo-leg if they lost a real one? Politics, Jerry, Sam said, and I could tell that he hated the very word. I've been trying for years to forget the terrible things that were done to synthetics below the warehouse in Flagstaff. Sins shoot to kill, and their weapons aren't like anything normal blokes fight with. How many could there really be to have a whole group of people dedicated to hunting them? You mean hunting us, love, Beck said. And then the sins aren't really involved in any politics, Sam. They're more of a crazy organized group of self-proclaimed zealots with a mission to cleanse the earth of our wearing motherboard hearts whilst getting paid for it. Their philosophy isn't that far from mine, really. What philosophy is that? Sam asked, pulling on his dingy yellow coat. If you don't agree with something, kill it. We drove over the collapsed rubble of the bridge for a few minutes at a slow pace before we saw the first signs of scheduled roadblock. I may never be able to go through an airport in 2012 again in my life, but if I ever do, I will kiss all the TSA people full in the face and give them sincere hugs and tell them how much I appreciate all they did for our country. That's how bad this roadblock was. The number of guns and soldiers was uncomfortable at first glance, and all of the glances following, while I looked on with an open mouth and stared at the soup line of Mother Apocalypse. Amazing, isn't it? Red said quietly. Most of these guys are mercenaries who take a cut of the city's sales in exchange for bullets and bloodshed. Safe to say Seattle doesn't get much trouble, I said, still in awe of the display of firepower. And then I glanced at the lineup of suits, combat suits, and asked, So, how will we know the sinners from the mercs? Blue took a deep breath in preparation for a long-winded explanatory subject on the looks of synthetic hunters, but Piper cut her off. They look like that, she said, pointing at a white armored finger. She pointed her white armored finger ahead of us, and there, in the very front of the line, waving through an armored car that had just been checked, was my first sighting of a sin. Or sinners. There were tons of them. Their battle armor was white like Piper's and about the same size, but not bulky like most armor. The general make and model of the suits were different, but the helmets were something to behold, mainly because they weren't helmets, but really looked like cowls that covered their head, while a small, barely discernible shield flickered in front of their faces, blocking the wind and the rain. This is bad, guys, Red said. The only reason that they're here is because they're looking for someone in particular. Sins don't just stay at the gates of the city hoping to not nab a catch. You sent your kids over to your mom's house? Nice. You're like, go to grandma's. Get out of here. All right, I just got a text message from my sister. It says, okay, the doctor said we want him out by 7, just so we're all on the same page. Whoa. Whoa. We're getting a baby by 7 tonight. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Drones, Red said, and lots of them. Beck growled in frustration and kicked the wall of the waltz. What are we supposed to do then? You're all geniuses of the outfit, so you figure it out. Blue was chewing at her lip, the motion that told me her brain was in light speed. Sam tried motioning another suggestion, but was hissed and scowled at by Blue at the first noise. All of us watched her in silence, waiting for the brilliant blue-haired girl with her eyes squeezed shut to save us all with her vast intellect. And... Nope, I got nothing, Blue said, opening her eyes. All I can think of is the stuffing you two in the engine compartment and hoping the heat throws off their scanners. I shot a questioning glance at Red as if she could back her sister's meager plan. Shrugging, Red said, I guess that's better than nothing. It is exciting, isn't it? It's very exciting. It didn't sound that bad until Sam and Blue escorted us back to the waltz and showed us our hidey hole. No frickin' way, I said, shaking my head when Sam lifted the floor panel and exposed the engine compartment. Stop whining, Beck said, squatting down and sticking her head in for a quick look. We'll fit. Yeah, if we go plastered together like a couple of newlyweds, I said, scowling at her. Forget it. I'll take my chances with the drones. And then Blue shocked me by grabbing the sleeve of my dark gray jumpsuit and almost shouting, This isn't a joke, Jericho. The sinners are forced to be reckoned with, and if you ever get away, we won't. Now get in the stupid shaft. She was visibly angry, but I knew better because I heard what she was thinking about and how afraid she was of the sins, that they would kill me and that she would die without me, or something along those lines. Fine, I said, stepping into the cramped space lying down next to Beck, who winked at Blue. Without another word, Blue turned and walked away. Sorry, Jerry, Sam said with a slight grimace. The panel won't latch on the side all the way with both of you on your backs. Sam, if we don't get out of this alive, please remember me as I was, I said, turning on my side, scooting closer to Beck, who was on her side, facing me with a smirk on her face. And then the panel slammed shut above us, and I was instantly aware that I was going to die of claustrophobia. Not only was the panel touching our shoulders, but the iron grate that we were on top of was mega uncomfortable, and a large crankshaft was spinning inches below us. Beck's face was also inches from mine, which was worse than the crankshaft. Just when I was about to tell her to stop smiling at me in the glow of the smelly engine compartment, my holotab lit up on my right arm, which I was on top of and therefore could only see the light and not the message. After a few seconds, Beck said, Are you going to get that? Nope, I said. Could be something important from Blue. Don't care. Sighing, Beck said, Just check it. If there's trouble up top, we need to know already. That did make sense. My arm was uncomfortable on the grate, too. Leaning as far as I could away from her, I pulled my arm from beneath me, slipped it under her neck, and held it awkwardly behind her so that I could see. And then, to make it more awkward, I had to put my left arm around her also, just so I could touch the swirling new message icon and see what Blue had to... It wasn't from Blue. Beck, thanks for the hug. I needed that. I instantly tried to pull away, but found that I was somehow stuck in the position that I was in, unable to move my right arm. Why'd you have to aggravate me every second? I whispered furiously into her face. Because you're cute when you're angry, Beck told me, slipping her right arm around me. There, now we're both hugging people we don't like. At the time, I could have thought of a billion women I'd rather be smashed against in a tiny cubbyhole, including the smelly raider from Vegas. When I say that I wasn't a happy camper, I'm putting it mildly. So don't go on a rant about So I don't go on a rant about it and have another bout of author intrusion. We wouldn't want that, now would we? Then, since being stuck below, plastered against the single most annoying robot woman living wasn't bad enough, I also stumbled onto the fact that being severely stressed out about something could make me accidentally slip into SS mode, which is what happened. And before I had a chance to be horrified by my being melded with Beck, and I was in her head. Yikes. So, in case it wasn't clear, now he's morphed into Beck the same way that he morphed into, what's her name? Blue. So I'm going to go for a little bit because I need to answer all the messages that my family is sending me right now. Once I get all that settled, I might come back on depending if Zoe wakes up or not. She looks like she's out like a light, so I might be back, but I just want to catch up with everyone because I'm getting text messages about like Catherine's progress and everything. So I'm going to go catch up on that because it's important, to be in the loop, but I might be back.